Aloha, kakahiaka. My name is Taisei of Taisei Discovers. I'm here in studio with my brother Kenji of Kenji Walks. Together, we are spending brotherly time. Today on Brotherly Time, we sit with one of Hawaii's most compelling storytellers, actor, playwright, and cultural voice, Moses Goods. Born in D.C. and at an early age of 3 years old, raised on Maui. Moses carries a rich dual heritage of Native Hawaiian and African American roots, and his work bridges the worlds of stage, screen, and spirit. From his one-man show, Duke, in reference to Duke Kahanamoku, the Great, to his powerful role as Chief Moku in Apple TV Plus's Chief of War. You know that we love Chief of War here. He continues to uplift stories that reveal identity, ancestry, and the human journey. This conversation will dive into culture, healing, and what it means to embody Hawaii's history for the world to see and for generations to come. Moses Goods, welcome to BrotherLee Time.
Aloha, brother. Thank you guys both for having me.
Absolutely, man. This is, sometimes I get nervous before a podcast, and I think that's a good feeling. For this podcast, I was more excited. There was a lot of anticipation.
Nice.
And I think I want to go back to when I met you real quick. The first time I met you was at the rap party at Roy's.
Correction, wasn't the rap party. Was something more special than the rap party.
Oh.
That was the first meal that we had together as a cast of Chief of War. So the first time we got together was at your place.
There were two separate dinners at my place.
Was there? The
first
one
was
I was
bigger.
at
Okay.
was our first dinner together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's when I met everybody, was that night.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm mistaken. I think the rap party was another dinner.
Okay.
Anyway, so when I met you, do you remember what I said when I met you? I said, brother, are you black? And you were like, yes, and Hawaiian as well. And I was like, damn, that's amazing. So we immediately had a connection off the bat. The second time I saw you in person was a little bit more recent, and that was at the premiere.
Yes.
Right? And what you were wearing, we're definitely going to bring that up because, bro, it was majestic. It looked like royalty. You looked like royalty that day. So first of all, I just want to say, like, when I offered you to come on the platform, why did you agree?
At first, I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. I didn't really know who you were. But then, I followed a little bit of the podcast and what you guys are doing. And I really like the work that you're doing and the way that you're capturing these stories and having these conversations. So I'm like, yeah, I'm in.
Awesome. Okay, so I want to get to know you a little bit better. And I want our viewers to get to know you a little bit better. Let's start with your origins. So growing up Black and Hawaiian on Maui seems to be a rare and distinct vantage. Who is dad? Who is mom? And what did your childhood look like?
Oh, good question. Dad is Moses William Goods Jr. I'm Moses William Goods III. However, I'm at least the fourth Moses in our line because my great-grandfather was also Moses. He wasn't Moses William. So my dad, to answer your question, is a man that comes from a very long line of proud Black men, Black people, men and women. All of my ancestors went through a lot, of course, to bring him into this world, and he instilled that in me. All of that what they went through to have to continue our existence of our family. That's kind of how he raised me, knowing that there's a lot that went into this moment of you even being here. So that's in a nutshell, that's my dad, and that's what he instilled in me. My mother. Ethel Puamelia Pi'ilani is her maiden name, so I'm from the Pi'ilani line of Maui, which, if you know, that goes way back to the Chief Pi'ilani. I'm 16 generations from Chief Pi'ilani. She was born and raised in Hamoa, in Hana, and when we went to Hamoa, those few trips we went out there, because I wasn't raised in Hamoa, but we made many trips out there. She took us there, and having not spent so much time there, all these memories just came flooding back into her. And she pointed to the different places, the different pu'u, the different mounds where she knew the iwi of our family were. the bones of our family. She pointed there, like that's where they are. That's where they are. So I come from that on my mother's side, that type of legacy from my Hawaiian side.
Wow. Okay. So what was your childhood like? Who was Moses as a in his adolescence?
Hey, not many people know. By nature, I'm very shy and introverted. It's only through acting that I'm able to get out of my shell. You'd never know it because I can deal with social settings now. But growing up, I was terrified to even go into the store and buy a newspaper for my dad, things like that. On top of that, we were one of just a handful of Black families on Maui. Like in Hawaii, period, there has never been a time when the Black population on Maui exceeded 4%.
Wow.
So less than 4% of Hawaii is Black,
Yes.
meaning you're not going to run into a whole lot of Black people, especially, in my childhood. So there was maybe one or two other Black families that didn't live anywhere near us. We'd run into them once in a while. So all that to say, it was difficult for me to find my way to the pride in Blackness.
Yeah.
Luckily, my dad made sure that we wouldn't not do that, right? He instilled that in us. But it was still challenging because we don't have Black people around us. We didn't grow up in a Black community. The only Black community that we had was our family. But he made sure that we were rooted and grounded in both our Hawaiian side and our Black side as well. So in a nutshell, shy kid, growing up, child of two worlds, but I had parents that made sure that both of those worlds were very real in my life.
Do you have kids now?
I don't. I got a ton of nieces and nephews. I got my second grandniece on the way, but no kids of my own.
Okay. Kenji and I, our father was absent. He was alive, but he moved to the mainland at an early age. So we also had the challenge of yearning to understand our Blackness. I think that I'm happy for you, and you were fortunate to have your father teach you what it means, right? So what about the Hawaiian side? How connected are you with your Hawaiian heritage?
To answer that, I'll say I'm very connected. However, I wasn't always as connected as I am now. My mother, the first language she learned was Hawaiian.
Okay.
But at a very young age, her own parents forbade her to speak the language because they fell into that trap of Hawaiians are second best. She was actually told Hawaiians are second best. So they suppressed in her basically all things Hawaiian. She grew up speaking what they call the King's English, and she was actually very articulate. And because she was taught to be that, because her parents and all of her older siblings, they all spoke Hawaiian. They all grew up very Hawaiian, but they wanted to make sure that she got ahead in life. So they made sure that she was basically disconnected from a lot of those things that made her Hawaiian. They were still there. She was still, she grew up in that environment, but there was an effort to pull that Hawaiianness out of her because of, us being victims to how the reality of back then, right? So it wasn't until later on in life where I found my way to the culture, through language primarily. And then as an actor, I decided that, okay, if I'm going to spend the rest of my life telling stories, I don't want to tell other people's stories only. I want to tell stories that are about me, that connect to me. So that's when I started to focus on making my own work. I'm not a trained writer, but I became a writer out of necessity because I wanted to tell those stories, those Hawaiian stories, because that's what I connect to, and we're in Hawaii. So why wouldn't I tell those stories, right? So that's really how I started to grow, was actually doing the work, researching the work, meeting with kupuna, strengthening my knowledge and my ʻŌlelo and all of that, so that I could represent Hawaiians on stage, because there weren't many Hawaiians on stage or on screen.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I want to get into Duke because that's actually the first time I've seen you act. I was like dozing off on the couch one day, and I was like, "Is that Moses Goods in a? Was it a Speedo or something?"
It was his onesie,
the onesie.
Olympic uniform they wore.
But it was there was something enchanting about it because it was a very strong and accurate seeming depiction of the great Duke Kahanamoku. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But first, I do have one more question as a black man. As a black man, what is your philosophy on the use of the N-word?
Oh, good question. Growing up, I would not, I wouldn't let my friends use that word. I was very uncomfortable with that word. When I was really young, that's the word hadn't even been reclaimed really. It was just starting to, at least generally. And then we took a trip to Virginia, which is where my Uncle Maceo was. My Uncle Maceo was my grandfather's brother. I'd never met my grandfather. He died before I was born. Uncle Maceo was like my dad's favorite uncle. He always told stories about him, but I never met him until I was like in middle school. I get up there and I meet him. It's like meeting royalty. It's like meeting, just like the patriarch of the family.
Yes.
And he says, "You ain't nothing but a little nigga." And I didn't know how to react. I looked at my dad. First I looked at my mom. She had this terrified look on her face. I looked at my dad. He had this look of pride on his face. So I'm like, okay, this is a moment. This is a moment when he's because the word has been reclaimed, and coming from an elder like that, if he's going to use that word, he didn't use it to stab at me. He basically saying, you are me, you are one of us.
Yes.
It was my acceptance into the Goods family, the Goods manhood line. And so that sort of changed my I guess perspective of the word. However, I still to this day, I'm not comfortable when it's used by people that are not of the community.
Yeah.
I know it's becoming more and more accepted, and it is what it is. I'll use the word around other black people, right?
Yeah,
and only other black people that I know. I'm not going to show up at a barbershop, hey, nigga this, nigga that, right? Because I'm light skinned. I'm not even black presenting, right? I look more Hawaiian than black, and so I'm like, I'm not going to, pretend like I have the right to use that word in that space.
Yeah.
And I wish that everyone would think about using that word and how you're going to use that word in a particular space. If you live in a community, if you're not black and you live in a black community and they allow you to use that word, that's fine. That doesn't mean you should claim that word. This is my opinion. You shouldn't just throw that word out left and right. But again, that's just my opinion. I know a lot of people have different relationships with that word. But I think also not growing up around black people sort of shaped the way I feel about that word.
Interesting. Yeah, and it is widely used nowadays, very freely. So thank you for sharing your insights on that.
I'll mention it to my friends that will use it, because some of them will use it. And like I'll mention that it's not something that I would like people to use, and usually they'll stop using it, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, they won't be my friends anymore, right?
Being black in Hawaii is a unique experience. So thank you for sharing that. I want to talk about ʻīnāmona Theater Company. I want to talk about the name and what it stands for. That's something that you created, correct?
Yeah. So ʻīnāmona is it was just my way of creating something that would allow me to have, I guess, allow me to have a space to create and have a title to create under. But also the word ʻīnāmona was, I chose that word. So ʻīnāmona is the kukui relish that you put on food, right? Like fish or whatever.
Yep.
And the mana'o behind that, using that word as the name of this organization is, the ʻīnāmona is just something that you add to the dish to enhance the flavor, right? But the real nourishment is the i'a, the fish underneath, the food underneath, which are the stories of our ancestors, which are the things that came before us. So it's my way of reminding myself that what I do as an actor is just a little bit sprinkling, right? I'm not the main show. People think that actors are the main show, but really it's all about the story. It's all about the knowledge that that you carry to get that story out there. So it's a reminder that, and also if you put too much ʻīnāmona, too much kukui, you have a problem, right?
Yes.
You get the runs. So too much of yourself is problematic. So finding the right balance between you and your ancestors or the stories that you carry, to me, is something that's important.
So you're a man of the theater.
Yep.
Acting on the big screen is different from acting in a play, correct? So I do want to talk about Duke real quick. What compelled you to write and perform Duke, the legendary Olympic gold medalist and father of surfing?
So when I decided to be a full-time actor and to focus on our stories of Hawaii, I made a list of the stories that I thought, either I want to tell them or I think should be told. And towards the top of the list was Duke, one of the most famous Hawaiians ever to live. And on top of that, he's someone that exemplifies humility, right? He was someone that, this is what made creating the show difficult. So the show's about him. Because he was so humble, he never spoke about himself. So I had to, and also it wouldn't feel right for me just to portray him, like an hour long of him talking about himself didn't feel right. So I ended up playing 12 different 11 or 12 different characters, because it felt right for me to tell the story, his story, from other perspectives, not just him talking about himself. So the fact that he was such a humble person, even though he was a worldwide celebrity, just made him that much more intriguing to me. So I'm like, well, that's a story I'd like to tell.
Wow. Okay, so what other stories do you desire to tell?
I'm pretty, in terms of that list that I made years ago, decades ago, I hit a lot of the big ones that I wanted to tell. So now, because I feel I laid a strong foundation in terms of me telling mo'olelo Hawaii, stories of our ancestors here, and establishing myself that way. Another story that someday I'll tell is actually the story of myself, which, it's and it took me a while to get to the point where, like, yeah, I have a story that is worth telling. But the idea that I have for this story that I haven't written yet is called Two Ships. So one ship is the Va'akaulua that carried my Hawaiian ancestors across the Pacific. The other ship is the slave ship that carried my father's ancestors across the Atlantic. And I'm the convergence of those two ships. So that's the idea. I haven't started writing it yet. I had this idea for a long time. But to answer your question, I think I'm at a point where I feel confident enough where to tell my own story wouldn't be me just kind of like putting myself out there. I do believe that we're at a time where a story like that is something that I think should be put out there. It's all about what story in that moment needs to be told. And I don't want it to be a story about myself because I want to talk about myself. It needs to be the right moment if I'm going to even do that. So to answer your question, the story of me, which is the story of my ancestors converging.
Wow, that's refreshing to hear. As a Black Japanese man that was born and raised here in Hawaii, I identify a lot with being on local brado. And I've said this a lot of times before, but and my understanding of my Blackness is fairly limited. And a lot of our history was also erased, right? But it is highly likely that my ancestors came from Africa on a ship as well. Japanese side migrated here to work in the industries. I think we're fourth generation, right, Kenji? Yeah. So we have a pretty interesting past as well. But when I hear that, it kind of makes me want to dig deeper into some of my lineage, even though it's a little difficult at times. I want to jump into Chief of War because I just want to say this. Mahalo so much for being here. Chief of War was something that was so special to me. Every Thursday night when I got off of work, I was excited to go home so I could watch the next episode. I watched each episode maybe about 4 or 5 times initially, but I think I've probably watched all of them about 8 to 9 times. And sometimes I'll just have it in the background playing. Sometimes I'll mute it and just have the visuals and then work on the podcast. But for me, it was so wonderful to see a very accurate depiction of the ancient culture of where I'm from. I don't have koko, but I identify with being of Hawaii, like you said, of Maui, right? The character that you played gave me a sense of comfort in the fact that you felt fatherly to me. Like if I had a dad, I'd want to have somebody that was strong and wise and a visionary. You're a visionary, somebody that was always thinking steps ahead of everyone else. You killed that role. So let me ask you, in Chief of War, Moses Goods as aliʻi Moku, a highly significant supporting role. When it comes to authenticity versus drama, what was the most challenging aspect of portraying your character?
Ooh, authenticity versus drama. I guess the biggest challenge for me was getting ready for the role. Of course, I'm doing a massive amount of research, which includes, hitting the history books, but also just, not even research. It's just me connecting with this kupuna in my own way, in a, I will say, a spiritual way, right? So I had an idea of how this kupuna is, which is not necessarily the same thing on the page, on the script, right? And so that's ultimately, it's Paa's writing that I have to, go on, which I think is wonderful writing. But of course, I have differences in how I want to portray him, and so I guess it wasn't a difficult challenge, but it's just one that it goes with the territory, right? You gotta talk it out between the actor, the writer, the director, and come to a place where you're all comfortable, which we did. But I will say that initially I'm like, this guy, Moku, was one of the most badass fighters ever. And they don't really show that, but he did some things that are just like, will blow your mind in terms of fighting technique and mastering, the lua technique of fighting, going into battle with spears in him and still defeating his enemy. Like the ʻāhulā that I wore, it's a replica, but the real one, it was recorded that the spear holes in the blood was still in the ʻāhulā. He got stabbed multiple times and still went forward. He was one of the best strategists, in the whole kingdom. So I'm like, this is the guy. But of course, the story needed to have my character be very not subdued, but more all up here. Yeah. Which I ended up, loving. I love how the way it was written in the end. But of course, I had to arrive to that point where it's like, okay, I had to balance my thought on how this kupuna would exist and also the other, the creators. So in the end, it worked out really well because I love how he was portrayed. But getting to that point, I think it was always a challenge for an actor, I think.
On your ʻāhulā, they had the black spot in the back. I heard you say something about your back getting tense or something like that. Can you explain that story?
Okay, that was the moment that I knew that Moku was actually with me, and it was a very scary moment for me. So I tried on the ʻāhulā at the costume fitting. We had a costume fitting, and I went in, and I was just blown away at the beauty of it. And I'd never seen an ʻāhulā with that design, with that black circle right in the middle of the back. Anyway, I finished the fitting. I left. Took the elevator downstairs. I took one step off the elevator, and my back froze up right in that spot, that exact same spot where the circle was. And it's that feeling you get where, choose your next step very carefully, because I could have thrown my back out if I wasn't careful. So really, what I realized that it was him with his hand on my spine. And saying that I can do one of two things. I can snap your spine, because I'm one of those badass fighters and the most ruthless fighters out there. I could destroy you, or I could kako'o you. I could support your spine. I have my hand on your spine. The choice is up to you. All I had to do was make sure that I keep him as the focal point. It's all about him. Like I said before, it's not about me. It's about the story of this kupuna. Took a deep breath. I took my first step, and I've been walking ever since. So I think he's got my back.
Hey, I'm sure he's proud, as many other of the ancestors, for the production and the way this whole thing played out.
And I've met actually several of his descendants. In fact, a good friend of mine from middle school reached out to me and said, that's actually someone who I descend from. And he was proud in the way that I portrayed his kupuna. So I'm like, man, that's me doing my job, right? Just making sure it's all about him and honoring him and his legacy, which is his living family today.
Jeez. Hey, can you recite? Do you remember any of your lines?
From the show?
Can you get into character real quick?
I could do my favorite line.
Do your favorite line.
Go away, done young. Everybody loves that line. Everybody loves that line. That's actually the line I think that got me the part, because I auditioned with that line, because that scene was the audition scene.
Oh, really?
And it got to that line. I'm like, I'm gonna freaking kill this line. I'm gonna give my best delivery of this line. And Paa even said, he's like, yeah, that line. Yeah, you gotta come and tell my kids. You talk to my kids in that voice, because that's the voice right there. So, yeah, that's my favorite line.
Jeez, bro, what was it like acting alongside Jason, Cliff, and Temuera Morrison?
It was wild. The first,
did it up your game?
It did. It had to. And I come from the mentality of, like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to reach a level of excellence. Otherwise, why do the thing at all?
Yeah.
And then I'm in the room with these giants of our industry, right? I grew up with Cliff and Tem as my role models, my heroes, right? Because we didn't have Hawaiians performing at that level. And then we saw them in Once Were Warriors.
Yep. And
I'm like, whoa. So they actually helped to put me on the trajectory that I'm on today. So I actually, I can name them in my genealogy in terms of actors, right? Because I looked up to them. So to answer your question, it was, yes, very intimidating. But like I said, I'm not going to jump in there and do a shitty job. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do the thing. So it's like, muster up all the courage and confidence that you can, because I don't want to be there like, oh, I'm too timid, I'm too scared. Why do it, right? So it only helped to up my game and propel me forward.
In talking to some of the actors and even some of the extras and whatnot, they said that there was a feeling, an air of like mysticism, or like maybe like the gods were there, the ancestors were actually there walking with you, guiding you, supporting you through this process. Were there any spiritual experiences that stood out to you on the set of Chief of War?
There was, it wasn't necessarily on the set, but the day we landed on the Big Island was the day that the lava started to flow from that one vent that it was close to Hilo, because we were staying in Hilo, and you could actually see it at night from where we were. And so that was like, what is going on? Of course, as Hawaiians, we're going to look at that as a hoailona, as a sign, right? Because when something like that happens, it's like, it means something. Hopefully it means something good, which I think it ended up, that was the case. Then when we get to Aotearoa, which is where we did most of the filming, it was the worst flood that Auckland had experienced in decades. Cars were being carried away by the water. And meanwhile, we're upstairs in our hotel, just kind of waiting it out, because we're trying to, we want to film, and the filming was pushed back a little bit. I can't help but look at that as another hoailona. And it's like, these things, these elemental things are happening, these spiritual things are happening. I think it's. I'm not saying that we cause those things. We're not going to be so arrogant to say that, yes, we cause natural disasters. But when things like that happen, from a Hawaiian perspective, you look at it and you try to find the hoailona in it. And I think that's what we did. It's like, this means something. It means we're doing something huge. So let's do the thing. Let's get it done.
I can tell that you're a spiritual person that probably sages and uses incense.
I do. Yeah, I do have some incense at home. Yeah.
Just feeling that.
How'd you guess?
Well, I actually brought some for you as well.
Oh,
well, because you're a creative, but I don't know, there's something about your spirit. Do you tend to find meaning in everything around you all the time?
I try to look for those moments when they appear. However, I want to make sure that I don't try to make everything a sign. Yeah. You know, you're going to drive yourself crazy. And then a lot of those things is like, no, it's just a centipede. It doesn't mean that, you know, your day is going to be bad, because, you know, stuff like that can affect your head if you let it. But yes, if something happens that is clearly a spiritual sign, I'm gonna listen to it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You and I are similar in that way. Before lights, camera, action, how do you get in the zone?
Good question. It starts way before that. It starts knowing your role, knowing your character, having done your research, making sure that you're in the right mindset. And it also sometimes can take some discipline. On set, we have a lot of fun. I'm like, me and Luciani, who plays Ka'ahumanu, we were the worst in terms of, you know, we would have so much fun. We'd have to hold, you know, too long because we're laughing or whatever. So we have those moments when we're getting crazy. But when it comes down to it, those moments we have to make sure that those moments stop when they need to stop. When we have to arrive at that moment when we have to reach those emotions and channel these kupuna and be in the moment. We got to make sure that, okay, it's time to stop. It's time to remove myself from this situation. I'll go take a walk, you know, calm myself, because, you know, everyone's laughing over here, having a good time. If I'm up next, I'm like, okay, if I need to go take a moment to myself, I'll do that, right? So it's doing what you have to do to tell the story well, to the best of our ability.
Do you meditate?
I do meditate. In different ways, you know, breathing exercises. I'll also go out into my backyard and just oli, you know, regularly, you know, and just some of the simple olis like ehomai and na'au. And I do that outside because a lot of times most oli are connecting you to the elements, to nature. So I'll go outside and chant na'au and I'll look at the lani, because we talk about the lani rolling and roaring and all of that. And I'll connect in that way. So that to me is a way of focusing and meditating, to just to be in line with the elements and the kupuna around me.
Nice. If Moses Goods had any influence in season 2 of Chief of War, what would that look like?
What would that look like? You know?
More war scenes.
More, I don't think you have to worry about that with Jason, you know, calling the shots. He's gonna have more battle scenes. More with me though.
No,
yeah.
with you. Okay. Yeah, with you. I like see the spear in the side.
Yeah, that definitely needs to happen. Really show what Moku can do. But there's also some. Of course, they're not able to include all of the kupuna, the historical figures that played a role in that time period, you know. But there's some key aliʻi that I hope makes it into season 2. Like I would put Keopuolani, which was Kamehameha's most sacred wife. She was basically a deity on earth because she had so much mana. And he had to like strip his clothes and crawl on his belly to even, you know, approach her. She had that much mana. So moments like that where people don't even realize how godly our aliʻi are believed to be, I would throw that in. People like her. And she's wahine too. And I think they're doing a good job of showing the strength of wahine. But Keopuolani was the epitome of not only of wahine mana, but like mana in general. So yeah, I'd include her.
So I got a couple more questions. I'm gonna pass it off to Kenji. But when it comes to mana, that spiritual energy, the force, the life force, who have you encountered that had the strongest mana?
Who I encountered that has the strongest mana?
Anywhere.
I mean, I'll say my dad, because he's just like was just the most powerful like human figure in my life. Trying to think if there's one actor that there's a lot of actors that I've seen, but I'm in terms of working with. Here's a crazy thing. Ka'ahumanu, so Luciani Buchanan,
Yes.
good friend of mine, love her. I'm blown away by the mana she brings, and she is like 5'0"
Yeah.
and so it's a type of mana that you can easily overlook because she's so small, but the way she, her approach to the character, her love for the craft of acting, her being a woman in the industry and a small one at that, and having to deal with an industry that is still dominated by men, and you got the chief of war is a bunch of big men too. Her walking into a space as small as she is, surrounded by giant Polynesian men, to me is mana. And if you can really overlook that, if you're not looking for it, but I'm like, I see that, and I am blown away by the mana she carries. So it's like I like to look for those types of things in the most unlikely of places. You don't think a tiny little woman can carry that amount of mana. But if you really take a step back and observe what's going on, you'll see what she brings.
Great answer. And it's not just physical, right? It's the spirit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whew. Okay. Lastly on Chief of War, and then I want to get into your craftiness before I pass the mic on. But at the end of the day, what was your biggest takeaway of portraying that role in Chief of War season 1?
Biggest takeaway, to me, was a chance to honor this kupuna. That although I'm not connected to him by blood, he is now kupuna to me. Yeah. I think that's the biggest, he might be in this room right now for all we know. So I think that's the biggest takeaway for me.
Yeah, I just felt a overwhelming feeling of emotion when you said that. The honor. Yeah. Okay, thank you for sharing that. Next, I just want to touch on, it's almost Halloween, and I recently seen a post of you constructing like a dragon head.
Yeah.
And to me, I was like, damn, Moses, you're crafty with your hands. You're creative in many different ways. We'll take a picture after, but the pants that you're wearing right now is made out of Crown Royal bags. Yep. I'm wondering, did you drink all those bottles?
I drank all the bottles, and then I made a pair of pants out of them.
If you need some, bro, I work in a restaurant. I can give you some Crown Royal bags. But explain to me a little bit about what drives you to create using your hands.
Okay. So I've always been creative in many different ways. However, it was a few years ago, I got this fellowship for actors moving their careers forward. And part of that fellowship was to, I guess we sort of, we identified our core values. Okay. And a core value is not something that you want to say, oh yeah, my core value is love. My core value is this. It's not something that you have to really dig deep and be honest with yourself to discover what that value is that you have above all the others, right? And it doesn't mean that you don't value the other things as well, but your core value is you have like 1 or 2, maybe 3 core values, but that's the ones that you have to nurture in your life. I found out that my core value is creativity. I didn't even know that you could have creativity as a value. So when I found that out, that gave me license to live in my creativity, because it in fact it's medicine to me. It's how I stay well. It's how my is right. It's all my mental health is not okay when I'm not creating things. And I create things differently. I create a character, in acting. I write, but I also just go out to my garage and I make things. I make benches, desks. I just made a bench yesterday because I got a party coming up and I need people need to sit somewhere, right? So I'm just out there making things with my hands, and that keeps me well. And so I gave myself permission to live in my creativity. And sometimes I make giant dragon skulls and I don't feel bad about it.
Wow. With smoke coming out of their mouth.
Coming out of his mouth, his nose and mouth, yep.
I'm sure the Kiki and Manoa will enjoy that come Halloween.
Yeah, that's why I do it too, for the community.
Wow. Well, you're an amazing man. And I'm glad I got to know you on a deeper level today.
Yeah, brother.
I'm going to give the microphone to Kenji.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, brother.
Moses, thank you so much for coming to BrotherLee Time. I, like my brother, have a bunch of questions, and I also just want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much for representing this very niche group of us who represent both Black and Hawaii identities, and doing it on the biggest stage in such a meaningful, impactful way. I do obviously have some Chief of War questions. I'm sure you get a fair amount of that. But what struck me, at least with the first half, was this was my first question that I had, knowing that we'd be having this conversation, is you mentioned your core value being creativity. What's your belief system on the creator?
On the creator?
Your name, Moses, as well, kind of biblical. Cued me into that. So I'm like, and you're the fourth in this lineage. So what is your belief system? What role does religion play in your life? Kind of give me the idea from a creator about the creator, if you will.
Grew up, like most people in Hawaii, Christian. It's something that, it's a religion that is very prevalent in Hawaii. And that was my upbringing. And then as I got to be an adult, you start to think about different worldviews, different belief systems, especially when I came into my exploring my Hawaiian identity and the different akua that exists. And for me, I will still, I guess, call myself a Christian, although I may not be an acting, church-going Christian. It is still a part of who I am. However, I make space for other beliefs, other akua that have shaped the people that I'm of. So I like to think about when Christianity was brought to Hawaii. Hawaiians were like, oh, another akua. We're going to add this amazing Christian God to our amazing gods that we have. And that kind of is how I see things. I don't, our akua are very real. The Christian God is very real. I'm not going to say that those things will cancel each other out, because in my brain they don't. So I leave space for all of that, if that answers your question.
Yeah, for me as a person of this land, I see the dual, and especially with everything going on with Kamehameha schools right now. I've had a lot of conversations about this. Wild. Are you connected to Kamehameha schools?
Two of my sisters went.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't get in, but I still feel like I'm a part of the family.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And so, is it a Christian school? Is it not? Is it Hawaiian? Is it not? Like all these questions. And one question I constantly have is what you just addressed about a native culture having their own belief system with multiple gods, and then the introduction of, let's say, a singular monotheistic culture, and that meeting. And now to this day, I have a lot of friends who identify as both Hawaiian, a lot of them KS grads, who like you, have space for both. And I think it's a beautiful thing, because our Black side is a little bit more Baptist, Southern Baptist. And so it's pretty straightforward as it's written.
Yeah.
And so there's less flexibility in that belief system than the one I find here. So thank you for adding that clarification from your point of view. And then the name Moses.
Yeah.
That's a powerful name.
Yeah.
So, there's some kuleana there, right?
Yeah, I had to grow into this name. Imagine being a little boy with a name like Moses.
That's
right?
what I'm saying. Like, right? When you go to recess, everyone just you know what I'm saying? That's a powerful name.
Yeah. The worst was what is it? Hey Moses, how's your ark? I'm like, if you're gonna try to read me, at least know your Bible. That's the wrong guy.
Yeah, I'm sure you probably educated people along your whole childhood. No, man, I love the name Moses Goods, and I love hearing about the history. The other thing I wanted to get into was actually what I noticed watching you on screen. I know you have a huge theatrical background, But as far as it goes, acting on screen, what do you think is what's left on the table? As in, you know, one series, or let's say one series was 8 episodes. Each episode is around 50 minutes. But I'm sure there's a lot that's left on the cutting room floor.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot that doesn't make it. There's a lot that you pour into a scene that might never be seen. What's left on the table as an actor, and how do you deal with that?
Like, you're asking like what, like the final product, and
not
including all the work that.
What do we not see?
Yeah, at times it can be really. It's sometimes it's tough to swallow because you know how a scene went. And in the end, they have to edit. They have to, you know, trim it down. They have to make sure everything fits and makes sense in terms of the storyline. But I can think of one scene in particular where myself and the other actor, we poured everything into that scene. And to us, it was like it was as close to perfection as the two of us could get. That the way the scene was, and they edited it, and it's like and I get it. They got you know, the story has to go a certain way. But all that work that, you know, that we spent, you know, pouring into the script, talking about the characters, you know, shedding tears over, you know, the story that's being told, and in the end, you're at the mercy of the editor and the director, right? So it can be challenging as, you know, as an actor, right? Because you really want to get your best work out there, and I think our work was still good. But we know what it could have been, and the world will never know because, you know.
What's the deal with, as far as maybe it's the rights or licensing, but like, can you still say, hey, let me get that clip for me, for my personal portfolio? You know, it's there, right? It's on someone's hard drive. It exists, but I don't know, is Apple TV like, no, that's ours. You can't use it.
Good question. I never asked, but I'm sure I could get that footage if I wanted to.
I mean, if you poured yourself, like you and another actor, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure you kind of want that.
There's also the one more thing about that, because I do both theater and film. For me, even though the world doesn't get to see that the work that we put in, half of it is doing the work itself. Especially as a theater person, I'm out there, I perform. And theater is not meant to be recorded, right? It's meant to be in that moment, and that happens in that moment, and it's beautiful. So if I never see it again, I'm okay with that, because I know that that moment into the two of us, that's the treasure that we have, that we keep, right? So that's kind of how I look at it.
And the audience as well, right? They have that moment, that performance at that time. It's not like my only theater experience is here, the one by KCC. I went to a few shows there, and actually the one time I went to New York, I went to Broadway, and I was like, I guess I got to see a play. So I saw Rent. I think that's what, off Broadway. Yeah. And then the one on Broadway at that time was Nutcracker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that's just when Book of Mormon came out.
Oh, okay.
So that was like what everyone was seeing. Everything was sold out. The one I got to see was, at least on Broadway, was Nutcracker. And as a movie fan, I became instantly a fan of theater because I loved there's a word for it, I can't think of it, but the impertinence, I think is the word, impertinence. It's not there forever. It's not recorded.
Ephemeral. Yep.
It's there, and whoever's there experiences it, and is that moment.
Yeah.
That voice crack, that step in the wrong direction, whatever it is, the imperfections, everything.
And it's never going to be the same.
Yeah.
And in that moment, what people don't realize is if you have a good cast on stage, it's not just the cast doing the work. To me, the energy from the audience completes the whole experience. So we're creating a moment together. And I didn't know this until I was there. I was like, there's a whole like symphony right underneath the stage, orchestra, or like 20, 30 people playing the music. Like, so it was live music. Check. I love live music. Then the acting, the performance, and it was a bit of, dare I say, acrobatics as well, because like some people were like just flying around and stuff. I was like, this, I get it. Yeah,
I get it, and it's a completely different form of entertainment. While we're on the topic, though, I do want to take this opportunity to ask you this because none of us would be able to answer it. But as an actor who's worked closely with Thomas Paa, many people will think Chief of War and think Jason Momoa. I get it, right? Big star, main character type of thing. But I would like to hear from you, an actor who's worked closely with Thomas Paa. Can you explain to us, like, let's praise Paa for a second. Tell us exactly, like, what most people will not know or will not see. What's the power of writing? And specifically, Paa's performance, how he influenced your performance as well as the Chief of War series.
Well, the power of the writer is that you get to control the perspective, right? And he's telling this story from the perspective of Hawaiians, to the best of his ability. So that is right there. He gets to decide how the world sees us, sees this story, is given this story. So there's a huge amount of power there.
And would you say for someone like yourself, as you described earlier, when you said, like, I'm actually a shy guy, but theater was my outlet. If someone's in that shy guy era and they're looking to find an outlet and they're looking at maybe theater, they're maybe looking at film, what would be your sort of your sort of recommendation if they're considering writing?
Oh, they're considering writing.
Yeah, as that expression. Like, I'm shy, but I feel like I got a story to tell. Everyone does. But specifically with writing, what kind of, if you have any, like, your tips about writing, especially when it comes to personal stories?
In terms of how to get started?
Yeah, like you mentioned you wanted to make your own story, which just hearing the synopsis was amazing. So I'm sure you're already kind of taking steps. Like, how do you build a story? Where do you even start?
By putting aside the fear
Of
of failing. Like I said, I was not a trained writer. By like I shouldn't have picked up the pen and wrote my first play, but I did. I didn't let fear of the play failing get to me, right? I'm like, I'm gonna do this thing. So, and in terms of if you're shy, writing is the best way, the best outlet, right? Because you're not putting yourself out there. It's just your words. So I think just doing it, just putting the pen to the page or the fingers to the keyboard, or whatever analogy you want to use, or whatever, just do the work and get it out there.
So when you mentioned fear, right? That's the barrier then. Just get over it.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the worst that could happen? What is the worst that you feel has happened to you? You know what I mean? Like, taking that step, what's the worst thing that happened to you?
In terms of writing or performing?
Creative expression. Like, what would you say is the biggest?
There's this, when I'm creating something, I have this, I hate when people see it in its as it's being created. Like if I'm in my garage making something, they don't have the vision that I have in my head.
Yeah.
I see the thing there.
Yeah.
They see a pile of wood and they're gonna be like, oh, it's that. I'm like, it's not that at all. Just get out of here because it's this. You don't see the vision.
100%.
When I'm creating a character, I'm like, we're rehearsing. The character is in there. I'm not in the moment yet. I have to find my way to that character being fully realized and created. And when someone walks into the rehearsal space, sometimes I'm like, I wish you weren't here because you don't know what this character is. I know, I have the vision. So I guess that people, the worst part is people not seeing the vision, not seeing and looking at a piece before the vision comes to life.
I agree. Well, that's, I think, one of the advantages of music and even theater. And that's, you're watching it unfold, but the work you haven't seen.
Yeah.
The work is unseen. It's all done before, and then you just watch it unfold. Painting is a lot similar to that. It's done.
Yeah.
It's in front of you. You didn't see the work. But is there anyone that you trust in that space? Maybe not the audience, an audience member, a spectator, but someone who also creates, who you want to be in that space when you're working it out?
Oh yeah, there has to be other people in the space, the other actors, the director, and the writers and whatnot. So you can't get away from people being in the space, while it's happening. But ideally, you want that to be people that are able to have a vision, and even if they don't have the vision that's in your head, they know that okay, this is not just a pile of wood. This is something with the potential to become so much more. It's those people that are like, that's just a pile of wood. I'm like, get out of my garage,
Well, speaking of crafts, real quick, I don't have top comments too often on Instagram, but one of the comments that I made was on your post, and it got I was like, whoa, people are liking it. Like, this is not normal for me. And it was you in a car with I put, my comment was, Miley Mohawk is action. And then it was a brother, that's Lawai, brother, that's tea leaf. Like, what was that? That was cool.
Oh, that was Lawai.
That was Lawai.
Yeah, braided into a mohawk and my hair.
No, you did it. No, you had a friend do it, right?
So her name is Julie. She works at Ota International. Plug for their organization because they're an amazing salon. But I ran into I went to that salon knowing I wanted to get braids done for the premiere, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to see who I get, and it was her, and she is a true artist. She'll take an idea that I have and she'll just elevate it to the next level. So that idea was me. I'm like, okay, what if we do the hakusai of lei making in my hair? She's like, yeah, let's do that. But also put all these, these swirls and everything to go along with it. So she elevates it. So that's me. The hairstyles, and I'm gonna do. I got an appointment with her this Friday. But it's an opportunity for me to combine the two halves of who I am. Hair in the Black community is a very, very important thing, right? Hair culture is it's a part of identity.
Yeah.
Braids, dreads, all of that is very important to Black people. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take something that is very uniquely Black and add Kanaka elements to it. So for the premiere and for the press of Chief of War, I had 3 different hairstyles. All of them were used, cornrow Black hairstyles, incorporating different Kanaka elements into it.
I wish I still had hair to braid, bro. I did at one time, believe me. I did. I did. I love getting my hair done, man. That cool. Was, 3 days-ish it would last, before it starts getting itchy, starts coming out.
Yeah.
But I love that method of expression, that option to have it, not just what I'm putting on, but like literally what's part of my body.
Yep.
I miss it, as you can tell.
I found out something interesting that's happening as I post these things.
Okay.
And it's in the comments. Like you mentioned, you commented and they're like, oh no, it's this and that and this and that. And I'm realizing that with Black hairstyles that aren't so much a part of the norm here in Hawaii, when people see that, they don't actually know what they're looking at or the terminology of what they're looking at. So I did this one hairstyle where I twisted tea leaf into my hair, and so they were done in twists, which is that style of hair work. And people are like, oh, I love your dreads. I love your dreads. And when I had cornrows, I'm like, oh, I love your dreads. I love your dreads. I'm like, I might do a post just to kind of like go over the terminology. Yeah. And it's just because lack of education, people don't know. They're using the blanket term of dreads to describe all of these hairstyles. I'm like, wow, I didn't realize that people were that uneducated about local people. Yeah, and I understand it because they don't run into a lot of Black people. They don't have these hairstyles for themselves. So I'm not mad at it, but it is. I think I might do a couple of videos being like, okay,
please,
these are not dreads. These are not dreads. And even what dreads are, the use of the term dreads,
right.
Where that originated. I just found out what that is. So
it?
Julie, my braid artist, I call her, she told me that because she doesn't use the word dreads. It's not to say that, she uses locks,
right.
and people that use the word dreads, there's nothing wrong with that because people that have dreads, will use that term. But I'm trying to move away from that because when those hairstyles were seen by, white people, it looked dreadful to them. And in reality, they're beautiful, right? Wow. They're a symbol of identity and culture. So I'm trying to use the word locks instead of using dreads. But either one is acceptable. But just knowing that bit of information, me personally, I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to use locks instead of dreads.
Words matter.
Words matter. Yeah.
And now I think about it, it was so obvious in front of us. The word dread literally has a negative connotation to it.
Yeah.
I just didn't put one.
But then it could also be like the N word, where there's a reclamation of that word. So I'm not gonna, if someone continues to use the word dreads, I'm not gonna. It's nothing wrong with it. But me personally, I'm gonna try to move away from using that term.
Hey, thank you, man. Thanks for clearing that up, and I look forward to that post.
Yeah.
Just a couple more things. While we're on the topic of language, I did have this question as well. Go away, John, right?
Yeah.
Bars. But for real, how was it, like, what kind of training, if there was a language coach or what, when you have to sound like a Hawaiian who's speaking English as a second language? Like, what kind of process?
Good question. We did have a dialect coach that was there. And she helped out a lot with a lot of the actors. For me personally, through my work in the theater and the storytelling and the one-man shows that I've been doing, I actually had already had experience in that type of thing. What we're doing is we're trying to imagine what they would have sounded like without having any recordings. We really don't know. So we have to make an educated guess on how our kupuna, when they were first learning English, sounded. The way I approached it is actually a deconstruction of Pidgin.
Oh.
So Pidgin ended up being how we converse in the English language, right? But over the years, there are things added to the language to create Pidgin, like, Chinese, Japanese, Filipino. So it became something that it is today. But if you start to deconstruct and go way back to the first building block, I guess, of us speaking Pidgin or speaking the English language today, it's in that moment. So there are, it's not to say I was speaking Pidgin by any means, that's not right. But there's some ways of approaching certain words where it's like, okay, that makes sense because that's how we say it today. If it in a Pidgin context. So I basically deconstructed. I took Pidgin, I took out the Chinese, Japanese, Filipino, Portuguese, all of that, and got back down to the very first building block, which was ʻŌlelo Hawaii and British English, because that's who they learn from, right? Yeah. So if you think of it that way, to me, it makes sense. And the word choices make sense. So that's how I approached it.
To me, I'm a little bit extra sensitive to language because I learned Japanese as an adult. And so I became aware of how difficult of a language English is and how nonsensical it is.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
How many exceptions there are. Like, people who learn English as a second language, which is a huge population in this world.
It's the hardest language to learn.
Shout outs to you guys because it's not easy. Japanese is hard, but like English is equally, if not harder. So that's what I was thinking as I was watching the series. And then I guess since we're on the series, I'll just mention to you one of the hardest or most challenging scenes that I watched that you were involved in was it Kamehameha and Kahumanu consummation scene as a girl dad. Okay. I'm watching that like, I just felt all types of ways. And looking at, because there was a close-up of your face as well, and you're the father, playing the father, right? Could you sort of just, one, lay out the groundwork culturally of what that meant, just for people who are confused about what that means? And then two, like, was there any, I know you mentioned earlier you are not a father, but how did you sort of prep for that scene, if anything? Was there anything special? What kind of prep did you go into that scene with? For me, it was heavy. Maybe it wasn't for you, but I just like.
No, it was a very heavy scene, and it's culturally, it is things like that were done because it's a celebration, right? We look at the creation of life as a celebration, and from the very beginning of the creation of life. So the relationship that the Hawaiian community had with procreation was very different than what we have today. So it's really hard for us to take ourselves out of a today mindset and try to understand what that meant. It was like, this is the moving forward of the people, of our aliʻi. It's a time to really to celebrate. And children, there was no PG-13 G-rated stuff back then. It was like you were taught to understand what that was and embrace it, and again, celebrate that. So the relationship with things like procreation was very different than what we have today. And it's really difficult for us in a today Western, mindset to take ourselves out of that and try to put ourselves into the people that we were portraying. But I'm glad that it was put in there for that reason, because I think it's, if nothing else, this show is getting people talking and having these conversations. Me personally, no, I'm not a father, but I have a ton of nieces and nephews. I have, again, 2 grandnieces on the way. I've always wanted to be a father, but it's just not in the cards for me, right? So I pour all of that fatherly energy into my nieces and nephews, and they mean the world to me. So I do have a fatherly mentality and feeling that I have, for them. And I'm also playing a lot of fathers on TV. So I'm used to being a dad now, even though I don't have my own
figure. Yeah, for sure.
So it's kind of my thing. In that moment, it was. It actually happened before we shot that scene. It was her walking up, going into the hale, and I don't know if they caught me or not, but that was for me the most difficult thing to observe, because it wasn't even the act itself. It's like her going into this moment, and again, like I spoke with Taisei, the mana that she carried, the amount of mana for her to be in that moment. All these onlookers, knowing what she and I know, that she can't have kids, so this is all not going to work anyway, and still, going in with strength and poise, that floored me. And then when we're doing the actual thing, it's like, it's funny. So we're doing. I hope this doesn't get out there. The little kid standing next to me. We love this little kid. I forgot his name. I think it's August. I don't know if he's going to see this or not, but he was a fun kid, but he's a little shit. He was kind of like the ring, not a little shit. That's a horrible way to put it. If he watches this,
rascal.
He's the rascal. He's like the ringleader of all the kids. So like when during different takes, he was the one that was like causing trouble and doing this and that. The kolohe one. He was really the kolohe one. So when I watch it, I'm looking like, oh, there's a moment. It's like, there's that kid.
Yeah. Wow. Hey. And
if you're watching August, I love you, and I love your kolohe-ness, and I think you're amazing. I hope you become an actor and I get to work with you again.
Hey, good job, August. On that note, we'll kind of wrap it up here, but that scene was, to me, like, how do you convey, the audience has that information about she can't have kids. We know history. We know this, but that's unknown to the main character, at least in this scene, right? And so we're holding all of these truths in our head, and she, Luciane, conveyed that without saying a word. And so, like you said, a 5'0" mana wahine. I think that also hit me. It was your performance, her performance, and Taisei and I were both raised by 5'0" mana wahine as well. And so I think there's a soft spot in both of our hearts forever that was set by our 5'0" mana wahine, single mother. So who also, by the way, Moses is a big fan, and she sends her aloha to you.
Send her mine as well.
She's stoked that we're here today sitting with you, and she's stoked to watch this episode. So thanks for watching, Mom. With that said, thank you for watching another episode of BrotherLee Time. Moses, can you take us out? Let us know anywhere we can, your ʻīnāmona initiative, wherever we can find you. Please let the people know.
Instagram, actor Moses Goods. I also do a lot of work in the community still. I'm doing a play in February. They're bringing back one of my plays. I'm not in it, but I wrote it at Honolulu Theater for Youth, called Joseph Kekuku and the Voice of the Hawaiian Steel Guitar. Just look for my work out there, because it's going to continue.
Mahalo,
brother.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching this interview. If anything in this video made you feel something, Please share this video with someone you think would feel the same way. This channel is a product of two brothers born and raised in Hawaii, using our skills, our story, and our growing network to unleash our creativity. For us, being creative isn't optional. It's a duty. We've got some incredible interviews and creative projects coming up, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Thank you so much for your support. It means the world to us. Hope to see you in the next one.